What a great crowd, and welcome back to Salt Lake City, where we are on our conservative victory tour as we continue tonight. Now, Democratic leaders, they bullied party members into voting for the health care bill, but the strong-arming, well, it didn't stop there. Now the Democrats are going after any company that dares to speak out against this bill. Now, California Congressman Henry Waxman is ordering the CEOs of companies like AT&T, Caterpillar, and Verizon to testify before the House and to produce documents proving that the statements they made about what the bill will cost their companies are in fact true. Now, as the cost of this bill begin to sink in, Waxman may come face to face with every CEO in America. Now, ironically, the left is complaining that it's conservatives who lack manners. Now, those of us who remember, well, it was their behavior during the Bush era. You know, those attacks now ring hollow. But it does turn out that we don't even have to look back very far. Here's what happened on Monday to former Bush advisor, our friend Karl Rove, when he hit Beverly Hills to talk about his new book.
Look what you did. You outed a CIA officer. You lied to take us to war. You ruined the country.
The comfort I take is that you're going to rot in hell.
With all due respect, this goes to show the totalitarianism of the left. They don't believe in dialogue. They don't believe in courtesy. They don't believe in First Amendment rights for anybody but themselves. If you want to keep interrupting me, you can get the heck out of here. Yeah. You can get the heck out of here.
Good for Karl Rove. Joining me now with reaction to all of this is the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Culture of Corruption. Michelle Malkin is here. How are you? Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Congratulations on conservative victory.
Well, they're here to see Michelle. Well, thank you. Well, I want to see conservative victory. We'll talk about that in a second. I want to get you some of your thoughts on it because I think that's the answer right now. I think we've got to fire these guys, get rid of them. We got to start anew. We got to follow the Reagan model. I think America's best days can be ahead of us, but we'll get to that in a second. You see what's happening with Karl Rove. You see the politicians, elected officials. I've never seen them turn on the American people and call them un-American, Tim McVeigh wannabes, Nazis, try and silence, intimidate. This thing with Karl Rove, obviously orchestrated. What do you think about the hostility of the left?
Well, it's the sanctimony, it's the hypocrisy of the left and their selective civility police who all of a sudden are now offended at any utterance of conservative that's above 25 decibels, frightening or inciting to violence for simply stating conservative principles. And what happened to Karl Rove, we've seen happen time and time again.
It's happened to you.
Absolutely, and to you.
I know.
And I think what disturbed me the most about the video was the lack of security around Karl Rove. He handled himself great. Yeah. But, we've learned to be prepared for these kind of things, to gird our loins. We're the ones that have to be protected every time we go on conservative campuses, not Michael Moore and Cindy Sheehan. No,
it's liberal campuses. That's absolutely true. And you get shouted out. I did a debate here against Rocky Anderson, the former mayor of Salt Lake City. And by the way, I will say modestly cleaned his clock, but it was interesting. Every liberal in the audience was shouting, interrupting, trying to do this. This happens to any conservative who goes on a college campus. Ann Coulter can't even speak in Canada, for crying out loud.
Right. This has become the norm. And so for these Democrats, after they ram through this massive government healthcare takeover, to claim that there's some sort of unprecedented crime wave against them, while Eric Cantor has this lunatic who has leveled death threats at him on YouTube.
Supporter.
That's right. An Obama donor twice over, and just a complete loon. We've become so almost inured to the fact
that
this
is a complete loon because of the threat or because of kidding, joke.
But the third book I wrote was called Unhinged, Exposing Liberals Gone Wild, that talked about Bush assassination chic, that talked about these death threats that are leveled against conservative public figures, and in particular, we've talked about this many times, conservative women who've gotten the short end of the stick many times.
You have been called horrible things by news networks. We've actually done segments on the horrible things said about you and other conservative women. I'm going to be with Governor Palin and Michelle Bachmann 1 week from today. We're going to be in Minneapolis as part of our conservative victory tour. Is there anything else you can say about the conservative women and the attacks? Why do you think that is? Why is it open season on conservative women.
I've talked about the pathology many times, that the left feels that whether it's racial minorities or women, that if we stray from their liberal orthodoxy, that somehow we're traitors to our race, to our gender, and there's nothing worse that they can tolerate, and they've shown their intolerance so many times, than somebody who has called them out on how they've sold out women and minority in particular.
What do you think about the state of politics? Because we examine this all the time. Have you ever seen this? Have you ever seen it this bad?
Not in my lifetime. But at the same time, I think it's unprecedented, the amount of passion, the amount of pushback that we're getting, the grassroots movements that have...
it's amazing. It's inspiring.
People are pushing back. And just to bring this around to Waxman and the witch hunt and the inquisition that he is planning against businesses, business owners and executives on April 21st, I have a proposal. I think it is time for a Spartacus-type revolt. Every business owner in America should show up and stand up with those business owners and expose the costs of this STEM care burden.
I have a thought also. You know, if any company ever ran their business like Washington, Pelosi, Reid, Obama, wait a minute, if they stole the way they steal from our kids and our grandkids, if they ran up record deficits, if they used phony accounting tactics, hang on, if they bankrupted Social Security that was supposed to be in a lockbox, wouldn't they be put in jail if they were a private company?
Oh, they'd all be black and white stripes in the Gray Bar Hotel for sure, Sean.
I think that's pretty true. How confident are you that conservatism is on the ascendancy, that this energy is real, that it's going to result in victory in November? Because I always have this, I don't ever want to get too arrogant. I don't never want to get too overly confident or optimistic. Any one event can change an election on a dime. We've seen this happen. One October surprise after another.
I'm cautiously optimistic, and I think it's books like yours and your message that is going to help us get there. The fact is, unfortunately, that the conservative movement has not only had to fight progressives, but progressives within our own party who are undermining national security, who are undermining free market capitalism. And, unfortunately, you have to look at people like John McCain, and I've talked about McCain regression syndrome, and you have to talk about those Republicans in the Republican Party who have stood alongside the Democrats sending us down the toilet, supporting TARP like Bob Bennett did in the Senate, and you look at the Tea Party movement and they are offering a real conservative alternative.
Michelle, it's always great to have you. It's so good. I'm glad you could join us in Utah. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Sean.
Now, when we come back...